What is going on, guys? If you clicked on this video, I'd greatly appreciate you. If you could hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, drop a comment below. That helps me out a ton. What's going on, guys? I got another little video here for you. Come on. I'm going in the barn. I'm trying to roll out 3 videos a week for you guys. Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. I know it's a little bit of a weird schedule, but that's what works best for me. So I'm going to try and at least do that for you guys. Long form, I should say, here on YouTube, and then short form, maybe a little bit more, at least the same, maybe a little bit more. Last night, I started working on my girlfriend's Crosstrek here. We were out driving it last weekend, and I smelled a little bit of coolant. If you can see right down here, the blue right there, that is coolant starting to leak. And we also had a pretty good leak on the water pump here. You can see how that's all blue. So we got the new water pump in. Thankfully, these are a lot easier than the EJ motors. New thermostat as well. And now we have to pull this intake manifold. It's about ready to pull. We just have a few more things to undo in the back. Hopefully we can knock this out pretty quickly, and then we can move on to assembling the motor for the 2017 STI over here. I also might list some parts today. Really depends on what we got going on. But let's get rolling. Knock this out, get this thing back and running so she can start driving it. She's driving my truck right now, which she isn't a huge fan of, but I'd like to get her back in her own vehicle. You know, guys, I was thinking about it last night when I started working on this thing. If you watch these videos, you probably work on cars, so you'll probably know what I'm talking about. If you've got a girlfriend and you work on cars, right? You work on your own stuff. She essentially, as long as you marry her or you stay with her for a long, long time, she essentially has unlimited labor warranty on all her cars. That doesn't sound very fair. Like, what do we get out of it? Potential mother of my children? Like, that sounds like a ripoff. Whoa. I'm just kidding, guys. I don't actually think like that. I just let my intrusive thought win there. I'm just kidding. Don't take that seriously. Probably shouldn't have said that, but we did. Sometimes you gotta let the intrusive thoughts out. Oh! Sometimes you shouldn't let them out at all. Look at you in big trouble. She knows I'm joking if she watches this, so it's not a big deal. I don't actually think like that. Uh-oh, where'd that nut go? No, I'm just messing around. My girlfriend is very she's very good to me, so I'm more than willing to work on her cars. I'm the one that convinced her to buy the Subaru anyway, so I gotta fix it when it breaks, right? It's not her fault that it broke. It's not her fault that the brake pads wear out extra fast. Another joke, guys. I gotta start letting out these intrusive thoughts more on camera, even though I just said sometimes you shouldn't say them. I feel like these intrusive thoughts are very relatable, and I don't know, I like to relate to other people, so if you guys think I should let out more of these intrusive thoughts, go down to the comments and either comment intrusive thoughts, like the word intrusive thoughts, or comment an intrusive thought. I think the cat's in here chasing around a chipmunk or something. She had one this morning and then she dropped it and it was playing like it was hurt, and then she looked away and walked over to me and then it took off running and she lost it. Maybe she found it again. I think this thing's ready to pull. Let's see here. What do we got attached here? Nothing? We're good. We got it off. Okay, now I think we might have to pull off this. Well, I hope I don't have to actually pull off this whole wiring harness. Well, we got multiple leaks in here. That's a good thing that we pulled this off. I'm gonna have to put a hose clamp on some of these hoses. Sometimes those pinch clamps, I think if they either get old or if they are just weak, then they like to start leaking a little bit, which we got one leaking here, and the radiator hose on the bottom was actually doing that also. We'll see. I don't know how much I want to try and take apart necessarily. Oh, there's the other nut. Don't want to lose that guy. I'd like to get this crossover pipe off almost all the way. Well, I don't know. There's some stuff that might be a little bit annoying. Seal slapping is not necessarily ideal, like just taking the old seal out and putting the new one in without cleaning. Kind of just made up that term. Seal slapping. It's like pad slapping, but seal slapping. So we don't really want to seal slap because, like when I did the water pump, there was a bunch of crust that I had to scrape off with like a little razor blade right here. So probably is going to be the same situation here, and we don't want it to leak again. Like I talked about in the last video, taking longer on doing it the right way is shorter than doing it a second time, and it's worth it most of the time. I'm already getting a little warm, honestly. Thought it was going to be a little colder out here, but I might have to take the flannel off a little early. Flannel's coming off. It's a little toasty already. 54 degrees. which I wouldn't necessarily expect to be too warm for a flannel, but I guess it is. I'd have to say I haven't really found my content making style yet. I don't like to edit a lot. Like, I have to do a bunch of little cuts. I don't like to do fancy editing, which maybe I will someday, but so I'm just gonna do more like the last video was, kind of just lots of talking while I'm working. So I might just continue doing that as of now. Next time I do one of these FB20s, now I have an idea of that might leak if I don't replace it, and so I should probably replace it while the motor is out of the car and the intake's off, rather than having to do it like I am right now. It's okay to make mistakes. I think the only time it's not okay to make mistakes is if you don't learn from them. So if you make the same mistake over and over again and you don't learn from it, then I would say that mistake should not have been made. But if you make a mistake and learn from it, I think that is a win for future you. That's how I look at it. I think it's a current win for a future you. So I didn't see that leak there. You can see it's leaking there. I don't believe that gasket is leaking. I think it's just the hose. So I'm going to put a hose clamp rather than one of those pinch clamps on it. And then this connection down here is leaking a little bit, but the main one that looked like it was leaking was this side right there. But I think we got everything removed to pull this coolant crossover off. Well, almost everything. Hopefully we can wrap this up in about an hour. Pretty doable as long as I don't get distracted on my phone, which happens more than it should. I didn't want to remove this, but I have to in order to get one of these lines off. I think we're gonna have to take some drastic actions here because there's no room to put like a pipe on this for more leverage. So we're gonna have to make more leverage ourselves, which we can do. It's just not ideal. Let's see. There we go. Sometimes you just gotta get in the engine bay. But that was successful. Let me get this off the rest of the way, clean it up, and I'll probably time lapse putting it back together, but I gotta charge my phone right now. I'll see you after the time lapse. That's all the stuff I was talking about. That was on the water pump as well. So we gotta scrape that stuff off and then we'll get it back on. Most of the Subarus that I work on are the turbo Subarus, and those are a lot more complicated when taking the intake manifold off. So it was actually a relief to work on one like this. Crosstrek is all put back together. Last thing to put on it is this guy that I broke last night. This is a plug for the radiator, and I don't have another one except in this 17 STI radiator. So I got to pull this out and grab that plug. I ordered another one from Subaru, so we'll have one for this radiator. Oh, it looks like I'm pouring windshield washer fluid in. This is not windshield washer fluid. I just put the coolant in here. I'm not that dumb. He doesn't know what he's doing. This coolant is only, I think, like 3,000 miles old, and so I didn't want to get new stuff, so I filtered it and put it in here. I just thought of that when I was pouring it in there. I was like, I look like an idiot right now. And this is not green coolant. This is also blue coolant that I filtered back into this container. So if you look closely, it is blue. Nuts, I just ripped my glove. Time to start it up. Hopefully all goes smoothly. You can watch for coolant leaks. I dripped some coolant on the headers, so there might be a little bit of smoke. I don't see any leaks. That is not ideal. We've got some bendage, I think that's a word, of the pins in here. I let my brother use my tools. We've got problems. Two of the pins on my scanner are bent, and I do not know how it happened. My brother was the last one to use this, so we'll have to have a talk with him. There we go. As I was saying, I'm hooking up the scanner because this generation Subaru does not have a temp gauge on the cluster here. It's got a cold coolant temp, like when it's not warmed up, and it's got a overheating light when it's overheating, and I don't want to see that overheating one. I want to see actual numbers, so that's why I'm hooking up my scanner. I think I might do a smoke leak test on this car like I did in the last video on my 19 STI, just to make sure we don't have any leaks. Diagnosis, Asia, Subaru. Automatic detection, North America, system selection, engine, live data. Here we go. Coolant temperature. Coolant temp, right at the top, 172. I'm going to throw the under tray back on it, and then we'll go drive it to get coolant temps up, park it, make sure that thermostat opened, make sure the fans kick on. We'll be done with this one, and onto the 17 STI motor. Before I drive it, I'm gonna do the old smoke leak test again, because that just tells me if I've got some sort of intake leak. I actually do want to see some out of the intake box, because that tells me that it made it all the way out the intake track. So we kind of want to see that. I don't see any leak. I'm going to simulate a leak just to make sure that this port goes into the intake. I don't know where else it would go, but okay, we can see some out of the intake box too now, so that's good. Let's put the OEM under tray on and take it for a drive. Bro, no leaks is a good sign.
I took it out.
Thanks. Oh, how do you?
Yeah. Oh,
Like
right
this?
here. Oh, I was gonna tilt it up for later. Not that better.
Just like the last drive, I'm gonna take it for a little spin, make sure everything feels good, make sure coolant temps get up to temp, come back down, and the fans come on and the thermostat opens. I'm trying my microphone on the front of my hat right here, because last time it was kind of a weird sound with it on the side while driving. But just like the last car, 30 feet successful so far. I have had unsuccessful drives less than 30 feet, but that's part of putting cars together. Not every drive can be successful. Well, hopefully you don't crash, but not every problem you fix is going to be fixed the first time. Sometimes it takes more than one time to fix it. I had a Forester that I put a STI 6-speed driveline in, and I put the wrong clutch fork in, and it worked, but it allowed, or I guess I should say it caused, the clutch to release at the very end. And so I could have the clutch all the way out, and it would barely move and give it gas, and it would roll a little bit just because the clutch was slipping. So that's one of my unsuccessful drives that was under 30 feet. But like I said, that's just part of fixing cars. You live and learn. But if you fix cars, you should have at least some sort of cheap code scanner that you can read codes with, and ideally that you can look at coolant temperature with. Like the last car had an access port that I could look at coolant temperature with. This one does not, and it does not have a gauge on the dash. Regardless if it did, I like to be able to see coolant temps, actual numbers on a code scanner like this. We're going to see if this one, oh, might tip over on me. We're going to see if this needs any more bleeding in terms of bleeding the air out of the system of the cooling system. But so far, so good. But we're going to take it, of course, for a little drive. Man, last time I had it set up good where you weren't tipping over, but apparently I didn't do such a good job this time. But I'm going to just go up and down the road, stop back at home, look and see if the fans come on, make sure the lower radiator hose gets warm, and then we'll actually go for a little bit of a longer drive just to make sure it continues to stay good. If it works, solid. Jade, my girlfriend, has her car fixed then. Pleasure doing business with you. Coolant temps in Subarus at least 207 to 210 is the hottest it should get at idle, and then the radiator fans should kick on and bring it back down into the 180s, low 190s. So that's pretty typical. You don't really want it getting hotter than that. Some cars are different. My brother's BMW, in the manual it talks about getting up to 220, 225, and that was news to me. But at least for Subarus, I know about 210 is the hottest it should get. And it's typically, it can be while driving, especially if it's hot out, but typically it's when you come to a stop and there's no coolant, or there's no air blowing across the radiator. And so that's why the radiator fans are there, to kick on and pull air across the radiator to cool it back off. So I'm gonna hop out, pop the hood. Coolant temps are currently 194. We'll see if they climb up. If you have a coolant leak and you fix it, you will probably smell coolant for a little while because it's just burning off. Just make sure you don't actually see more coolant coming out. So like I'll probably smell coolant for a little bit on this one because there was some on top of the block from the leak. I'm gonna see if I can sneak my hand down in there and feel the radiator hose to see if the thermostat opened. If it did, that is a good sign. And then we just gotta wait for the fans to kick on, make sure the coolant temp comes back down. The hose is not warm. It doesn't even really feel like there's much coolant in it, so I'm gonna shut this off, let it cool down, and we'll open the radiator cap. Once it's cooled down, be careful with that, and then we'll probably have to add some coolant. Other than that, things are looking good. The coolant temps were not getting warm enough. Just driving around, even when I came to a stop, it would just cool off. So now I'm just sitting here holding it at about 2,500 RPM, and the coolant temp is finally starting to come back up. We want to make sure the fans come on. So when it hits maybe 208, 210, the fan should come on. The thermostat should be open. It wasn't a little while ago, but I'm gonna go check again, and then we'll go from there. Radiator fans are on. When they turn on, feel the air that they're pulling across the radiator. If the air is warm, that means that there's warm coolant going through the radiator. If it's cold air or just kind of lukewarm air, that means that there's not warm coolant in the radiator, or there's air, and the coolant temps should have come back down, and they did. We got out to about 210, 212-ish. We are good to go. Another successful project. Once I know that it's functioning correctly, then I like to let them sit next time before I go drive them. Make sure it's cool off. I take the radiator cap off and I top it off the rest of the way, just so I know that any more air that kind of worked its way to the top, I get out when I add more coolant. So this is just a little fixing of the girlfriend's Crosstrek. Nothing too exciting. We are now going to be on to the 17 STI motor. Let me get this thing parked and we'll get started on that. It is Friday, which is typically a shorter work day for me, so I'll probably be leaving a little bit earlier than I usually do, or not working as late. My dad is also picking up some parts from Subaru for this thing. He works right out by it, so I just have him pick up parts. But I need the intake snorkel for this and a few little hardware pieces in a bracket, and this guy is done. We're ordering brakes today, and then it's going to be listed for sale. So if you're interested, drop a comment down below or check out my bio, and you should be able to find my other social medias that you could contact me on. But let's jump onto a little bit of cleaning the 17 STI motor, and I'll see you there. To be totally honest, this one of these studs broke off. You can see there, but it is all nice and solid. We've got a factory engine bay, aside from Grimspeed caps, which I might leave on. It's kind of a nice touch. And I was gonna work on the 17 a little bit today, but like I said earlier, it is Friday and I still have a package that I have to bundle up and ship out yet, some Brembos. So I'll probably record that, then end out the video and head to my girlfriend's early. Somebody purchased these Brembos yesterday, so we're gonna package them up. I believe they're getting shipped off to Colorado. I'll just throw it on time lapse and see you after the time lapse. If you guys are still watching this far into the video, if you are not subscribed, once again, if you could subscribe, it helps me out so much. That is going to be it for today's video. I hope you guys are getting your projects done. Hope you're doing well in life, and I'll see you guys in the next video.